Oh, that was a rookie mistake. Classic right there. I'm sure Willie in the chat will be going at me about that. But welcome into GDT Live, everybody. Today we are joined by the prospect Don Anthony Donati, and we're going to go over the Blackhawks prospects. He's been at a lot of events recently, so we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. First, we have a couple pieces of business we have to just get through here. And number one, my deepest condolences to the Weisblatt family for the passing of Orca Weisblatt, killed in a horrific car accident over the weekend. Orca played a number of games for the Calgary Hitmen of the Western Hockey League and then was in the ECHL. He was set to play for the Allen Americans, I do believe it was. So, man, just extremely sad news that came out of there the other morning. So just want to give my heartfelt condolences, love and sympathy to the Weisblatt family. I just saw a video as well from his mom. They were featured in a NHL or a Sportsnet style video a couple years ago, and oh, what a beautiful family! What a great family! So, wishing them all the best moving forward. Switching things up a little bit, hard to kind of go forward after one of those, but I want to thank a lot of you guys, the fans here at GDT. And the reason you're probably like, why the fuck are you thanking us? You guys have been awesome the last few weeks. Dayton and I have not had as many live shows as we have wanted to over the last 3 weeks. I was in Toronto for meetings. Now I've been back home in Kamloops, and we've just had a busy time with the Kamloops Blazers training camp and just getting things underway. But our show, you guys have just like absolutely knocked it off. In terms of viewership, in terms of subscribers, we've gained over 68 subscribers in the last 2 weeks. So really awesome stuff. And our video with Marco D'Amico has like 3,000 views on YouTube. So you guys absolutely love that one. So big thank you to you guys. We got lots of great stuff coming forward, and let's get it started here with the prospect Don. And Don, I got to ask you, you had a video about Connor Bedard out there, and it was awesome to see. What did you see from Connor, and how does he look right now?
Yeah, Connor looks faster, stronger. I think that his creativity is back. If you saw some of the clips from Batman Collects, who I think was covering the like Koivu hockey, who him and Celebrini as well as Zach Benson were practicing over there, and it's just like Bedard has been talking about how he wanted to work on his skating this year, kind of his power strides, and I think that that's only what he's done. He did a fantastic job, kind of looking really, really great against just all the competition he's faced this year. And during those training camp videos, he looks like a man amongst boys out there. And a lot of the players that he was playing against are actual Blackhawks players. And they were, not the best team last year, but it's still NHL players, NHL talent. That video was phenomenal. It did like, 25,000 on Instagram, and I only have like 80 followers over there because I don't post there. So, everybody wants to know about what Connor Bedard is doing, and for a good reason. The guy could put up 40 goals, 50 goals in a season if he has the right line mates around him. I think that he will be able to get at least 30, 35 goals this year. I think that you're going to be seeing a different Blackhawks team, maybe not on how many points they register, but it's going to be faster. It's going to be more exciting. You're going to see a lot more guys that are younger and comparative in age. So the kind of clickiness is going to like remove all that stigma because you're playing with guys that you played with in the AHL, like younger players under 23. They're all similarly in the same age. So yeah, I think that Connor Bedard's going to be fine this year, and he looks absolutely fantastic.
That's what I wanted to ask you was what kind of prediction for goals do you see this year? Because
Yeah.
I think this is the year from what I've seen. This is the year he kind of breaks out a little bit, and this is the year that we see him hit that 30, 35 goal threshold. What do you kind of is that what you see as well? 35 goals? Is that kind of the ceiling for him?
My prediction would be 37, and I'll
Yeah.
say 58 assists.
Yeah,
Yeah, something like in that
that's
range,
good.
just because it's going to be like probably the assists probably aren't going to be that much. Maybe it comes to like 42, but I see 58 being you're going to get a lot more guys that are always on the breakaway. Like Frank Nazar had 2 or 3 breakaways a game. Last time he didn't really pot a lot of those goals and those opportunities, but you're getting Oliver Moore. Ryan Green's going to be there. Nick Lardis scored 72 goals in the O. I think that he could score, 15, 20. If he gets like power play time and space. Sam Renzel is only going to get better and more offensive. So if you play him a full 50 plus games, I think that that's going to help Connor Bedard. I think that like 58 assists and 37 goals is pretty high into the potential he has, but I would say that's like his ceiling. His floor wise, I would say like 42 assists and like 32 goals. I think that that's kind of like, that's not far off. I do think that if he plays a full 82 games, he could be a point per game player this year. It's just like we don't necessarily know who his line mates are going to be. The Blackhawks only
Yeah.
got Bukowski and Sam Lafferty, some minor league signings, some PTO signings, things like that. But on the forward side, it was only those 2 guys. So I can't really predict him to be a full point per game player. But I could see like 74 points, 75 points in an 82 game season as his like kind of average. But yeah, I think his
Yeah.
floor was similar to that.
Dailyfaceoff.com has him playing on the first line with Ryan Donato and Andre Burakovsky. So
Burakovsky playing on that top line very long for him with him. I just
yeah.
I don't see that.
No, me neither. He needs better line mates around him, and I think that's something Chicago is desperately trying to do is surround him with some talent. And like you said, like Oliver Moore is the guy that I kind of go back to in his draft, and they talked about Moore being super speedy. He's like an F1
Mhm.
car out there, and
Yeah.
can his speed kind of match on a line with Bedard? Are they able to click? And what have you seen out of Oliver Moore at the showcase?
Yeah, Oliver Moore is one of my favorite players I've scouted in years. I mean, he was probably, I believe, I don't know, like speak on elite prospects, but I think he was like somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 for elite prospects in the 2023 draft. He fell to 19 in that incredibly weird draft class where there was 0 first round picks traded because everybody kind of quote unquote got what they wanted. I haven't really
Yeah,
seen any 2023 busts per se. Like everybody is
yeah,
kind of like it's one of those weird drafts where there might be 30 people that play over 50 NHL games in that class in the first round out of 32
hmm
picks. I would not be surprised if it was a full 32 of 32, like just everybody hit in some
yeah.
way. That 2023 draft class had about 50, 45 to 50 first round grades in it on some scouts that I talked to way back when. And it was just like really interesting because like they said it was the COVID year or whatever it was. I have no idea how that like draft was so powerful. I still dream about like that draft. Nick Lardis fell to 67, 66 in that class, and
hmm
he scored 72 OHL goals. So
Yeah.
obviously he didn't do that in his draft year, but you just that kind of talent. I would say like Oliver Moore has that elite skating, really incredibly fast-paced player. I think that during his draft year, people were saying that he was faster than McDavid in some of the rookie skating analytics that they were doing before the draft,
Yep.
and he just blew everybody away. There's players like you know, that overshadow him a little bit in that draft class, but he is one of those guys that can certainly be a top 6 player for the Blackhawks. I would be a little surprised if he was a third line player just because of the talent he possesses. But when you look at on paper of the Blackhawks prospect pool, he could be a third liner and just be a better Chris Versteeg-esque player. I mean, he's 6 foot.
Oh,
He needs to add a lot more size and a lot more to his frame. But the thing is, like, he's so fast, and when he was playing in those first 9 games, he had 4 assists.
Yeah.
Similarly with Sam Renzel. So like he was putting up points too while he was getting 2 or 3 breakaways a game. I don't see him as working with Connor Bedard as well as somebody like Frank Nazar because they're both extremely fast. So playing him
Mhm.
with Nick like even like Nick Lardis is like that would be such a small line, but having all 3
Yeah.
of those guys would be so fun because they're so fast. Their feet play just as fast as their brains. Their hands are both all 3 of them are incredible. I would love to see that line play a couple of like shifts a game just if the Blackhawks needed some like offensive output there. But Nick Lardis and Oliver Moore were the 2 best forwards in my opinion watching at the showcase. They're just so fun to watch every shift. And also I will say this, I was talking to both of Oliver Moore and Nick Lardis, and Oliver Moore after game 1 said that Nick Lardis was the one that drew up his overtime winner, Oliver Moore's overtime winning goal, because they used to
Okay.
do that in Brantford. So I thought that was kind
Yeah.
of cool. So then I asked Nick Lardis, and he's like, I can't spoil what they do in Brantford, so I'm not going to talk much about it. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, he was cracking up. But those 2 guys have like great chemistry together, and it was just immediate. So I would like to see both of those guys on the same line.
Do you think Lardis gets like a long look this year?
Yes, but it's gonna be like a Frank Nazar look. I don't think he makes it out of
Yeah.
camp. I think he needs that AHL experience. I actually do think that the NHL might be a little more better suited for Nick Lardis. I don't really want to see him in the AHL that much because it's going to be more grindy, gritty players that are just trying to hit him, kind of lower his
Mhm.
confidence a little bit. When you play an offensive forward with that much potential, I want guys that also think like he does and think
Yeah.
how fast he does and doesn't really lower his confidence. You know, you could point to Kevin Korchinski and how that hurt him, but Kevin Korchinski was a defenseman. It always takes longer for defensemen. He was erratic at times. That was out of Scott Wheeler's mouth. You know, those were his words, but Korchinski was erratic at times, especially defensively when players are trying to make a living and you're 225 pounds, you're going to be able to push him off the puck. With Nick Lardis, if he stays on his wing and he's not really going to go into the middle of the ice, he's not going to drive. That's not his game. But if he
Right.
does what he's good at and he uses his strength, especially in open ice and on the power play, the guy can shoot a puck and he can score. He knows his strengths. It's so I could certainly see him being in the NHL to start the year. And if he scores 2, 3, 4 goals and makes the Blackhawks fans happy, and sells jerseys, I don't think that the Blackhawks are going to be able to keep him in Rockford for that long. But I do believe he will be in Rockford. And for me, I'm going to be covering some Rockford games. I'm going to be covering some Rockford events. Shout out Dana Gray and the voice of the Rockford Ice Hogs. But it would kind of be cool to see Nick Lardis at that level because you get more media availability with him and things like that. But I think better for the Blackhawks would be to bring him up maybe 20, 25 games in, see what you got 50 games plus of him.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that play for him, the development plan. I think him playing in the AHL is not a bad look for him at all. You're right, though. It's playing against a different type of player, of course. But, he scored 70 plus goals this past year with Brantford. So, of course, he's a guy that he needs to kind of prove he can score at the pro level. And I mean, there's no doubts about it that he's going to. Another Brantford player, we've talked about him in text messages, but Merrick Van Acker, how have you liked him?
I absolutely love how he plays. He's exactly what the Blackhawks needed, as well as another Brantford Bulldog, Parker
Yeah.
Holmes, who they seem
Oh,
to
yes.
love. They seem to love Brantford and they seem to love Muskegon because that's what the Blackhawks continue to draft out of. But Parker was great. I think Merrick Vanacker just like plays to his strengths. He had that shoulder injury, but he still put up over a point per game in Brantford during that time. He had a kind of a little more of a rough season last year that I thought that, he played a little worse than he did even with his shoulder injury. And I think that, the Blackhawks would probably say the same thing. I think that point production wise, he wasn't as great as he thought he was going to be. I think that that's just a one-off year. I think that this guy's an NHLer. I could see him definitely being in any role in the top 9. He kind of reminds me of that kind of guy that he's a supporting cast to a top line where you had like a Brandon Saad-esque player there, but he's not Brandon Saad. It's like you put a Brandon Saad-esque player in that top line to help out your Jonathan Tays, Marian Hossa-esque guys. So I think that he's just like more of a supporting contributor to a top six line. I don't think that he's going to be driving play or, like scoring 40 goals a year. He's going to be one of those guys that is more shut down, like on both ends of the ice. He's going to play his role. You can put him in any situation. I just really like how he plays hockey, as well as a guy I want to shout out AJ Spellici and Martin Misiak, because
Oh,
both of those guys are absolute tanks out there. Martin Misiak, I've heard about this is my opinion on him, but he was somebody that just has an absurd amount of confidence for probably a third, fourth liner, and he can play any role. But this guy has just so much confidence. When he's in pregame, he's the last guy off the ice. He makes sure of it. It's him and Nick Lardis. They're both looking at each other like, get off the ice. I want to be the last one. It's one of those things where Martin Misiak has that kind of confidence. And I think Merrick Vanacker lacks a little bit of that confidence of being like a star player in his head. I think that Merrick could be that kind of guy if he just like, if his development path is like an inflection, this guy could be not a star, but a complementary star to your star. He does everything right. I think Martin Misiak does the exact same thing, just on like a third, fourth line role too. So the Blackhawks have some guys that I think could actually be a lot higher than what people are ranking them now. And Merrick is one of those guys that could turn into a Sam Rinzel-esque forward. Well, a guy that you took a chance on with an injury, and he was still playing really, really well. Now that he's 100%, he could have a big season at Brantford. He said that he is going to probably stay in Brantford this year. It's a better place for him, so I think that's a plus too. They're gonna need to score 72 more goals. That Nick Lardis is leaving out the door, so I think him and Jake O'Brien are definitely going to be those two guys that help that. So it's going to be a really fun season for Merrick. I think that he's great. Parker Holmes only had like 1 goal in 21 games. I think that this season is going to be like a make or break for what the Blackhawks organization sees out of Parker. I know that it comes really, really early into the development, but you took a really, really raw, like chance on a raw guy that has some offensive skill set and can do a lot, but he just hasn't really put it together as much. So I think Parker Holmes and Merrick are going to be, those two guys that Blackhawks are going to be watching over and over next season. And it's going to be a fun year for Brantford because the Bulldogs have, like, I know that Merrick said that I asked him who he compared his game to, and he actually said Zach Hyman, who Zach Hyman is the president and of the Brantford Bulldogs. So I thought that was kind of notable as well.
I think it's a good comparison, not bad at all. The one player that you touched on, but I wanted to ask you about AJ Spellici because he got into a fight. I mean,
Yeah.
he looks like a behemoth out there. You don't have to give me in like a little short couple sentences, just what you see out of Spellici and what kind of role you think he can play
Yeah.
with Chicago.
Spellici's going to be playing that bottom six grinder, like Shane Van Sage on Michigan State type of role, where you throw him out there. Teams hate to play against a guy like this in a 7-game series. I think that he's going to bring the body. He's going to be able to fight in games. I know that there were multiple players like Oliver Moore and Artyom Levshunov. Well, I don't know if Artyom Levshunov said anything, but I was sitting in front of those guys the entire game. And Levshunov really didn't say much, but he was just locked into the game. But Oliver Moore said that he liked what he saw from AJ Spellici, like the guy's a tank. I think Sam Rinzel was also talking to him. It was just a bunch of Blackhawks players above me. And it was like one row because at the games there was just a piece of paper that said this is reserved for players. Like it wasn't like roped off or anything. It was just a piece of paper on. So I was just like sitting next to like the row before that paper, and it was just like nice. And then Oliver Moore and everybody kind of like scooted over. So I wasn't purposely trying to sit in front of them, but it kind of just happened like that. And you could kind of hear how much teammates love a guy like AJ Spellici to be on your team. Probably don't want to practice against him, but AJ Spellici is a guy that is not going to be afraid to lay the body even in practice. Like these guys are all fighting for a spot. And I know that there was a incident with him and Aiden Thompson and some other guys that it was very physical during training camp and rookie training camp and practice before the prospect showcase. So AJ Spellicy is making a lot of friends on his team. He's probably making more enemies in teams he plays against, but he's going to be that bottom six guy that you throw out there for 12, 13, 14 minutes a night. He's going to be able to, even provide some offense too, because his vision is pretty good. I think that his like his skating isn't bad at all. He's kind of like a wrecking ball out there. So I'm excited for AJ Spellicy. Obviously, the offensive potential is probably not as high as other players in the Blackhawks organization. But if he does turn into that Tom Wilson-esque player, the Blackhawks are very well set up. Obviously, no one can really be that kind of guy because you kind of need that spunk and whatever he brings, like Tom Wilson, whatever he thinks about during games, you need that specifically. But AJ Spellicy could be that version for the Blackhawks, where Samuel Savoy was kind of like hopefully the Andrew Shaw, but he has size issues, NHL translatability issues. So I think that AJ Spellicy is more of what the Blackhawks need in terms of missing links to the next era of competitive hockey.
Love that breakdown. Love AJ Spellicy and what he can bring in those types of players, of course. The last forward I need to ask you about, Nathan Behm. What did you
Yeah.
see out of him?
He's fantastic. I was telling people that I was sitting next to, it was some friends that I, grew up with. One of them made the trip down with me from Illinois to Minnesota, and one of them lived in Minnesota. So the one that lived or made the trip up, he was a Golden Gopher. So
Oh yeah.
he obviously wanted to be back in that town. Those there was multiple Golden Gophers that were at the Blackhawks game, so obviously it was kind of fun for them. But I was telling him how amazing Nathan is because first of all, he's just somebody that just wants to play hockey. He might not like he might not be just like a superstar version of what like his talent is because he's always been a top of his game. I think that he just has that offensive like star potential. He might not have tapped into it yet, but you can see a guy that has that and is harnessing a bunch of offensive skill traits. The guy is big too. So he has so much upside. I think going to Arizona State is going to be fantastic. Being with the Blazers for one more year is going to be really, really great. You can see him, what you sent me already in practice, like him just being able to maneuver through defenders with incredible stick handling, really great skills. I thought that he was somebody that I love watching because I like really big skilled players, and the Blackhawks don't really have a lot of those that are over 6 feet. And he just kind of brings a different element. I could totally see this guy being a top 6 player for the Blackhawks. And I know that there's not a lot of room for that, especially on paper, but this guy just has so much skill. I think that
Mhm.
in terms of translatability, I could see more translatability in Nathan than I think in Nick Lardis because Nick Lardis's B game isn't as great as Nathan's B game is, in my opinion. I think Nick Lardis's offense and production is a lot better than Nathan. But when you're looking at guys that it's a copycat league. So when you're looking at like the Florida Panthers, there really isn't like a Nick Lardis-esque player, but there is a couple of Nathan Behm players. So I really like what I saw out of him. I thought he was fantastic. He's going to have a big season. He's one of my favorite players to watch just based on his talent, skill, just what his creativity level is, because he is a very creative player. So I really do like everything about him.
Yeah, he very creative player. I think this year obviously is going to be a big season for him with Kamloops
Mhm.
playing with JP Hurlbert, getting top power play minutes again, but just overall having his feet wet in the NHL and being able to play in what seems like he's going to play in a preseason game. So if all signs point to that kind of, you have a player of his caliber getting some NHL time and getting to play around, Connor Bedard and those guys. He comes back to the WHL. He's gonna have he's gonna have a big thing on his shoulder there where he's just gonna want to go out and, produce a big amount. And I think that
Mhm.
that's what's in store for him this year. Like we're maybe 35, 40 goals this year. It's gonna be it'll be an interesting one, but definitely a player that I obviously love for no bias, of course, no bias at all.
Mhm.
Looking at the defense side of things, the only defenseman I really wanted to touch on just for a minute was Sam Renzel, just because Is he a Calder Trophy favorite?
Yeah, I was just talking about this on the show I just got off, and I was thinking about it. Like, if he was on the Maple Leafs, if he was on the Habs, like, say you switch off David Reinbacher and Sam Rinzel, this guy has that Calder profile where you kind of look at and
Yeah.
you're like, this guy is ready. And he was drafted in 2022, so he's got some years under his belt in terms of development, but he was drafted as a high school player. So maybe it's a little bit interesting what the Blackhawks were thinking when they drafted Sam Rinzel at 25 overall. They traded up, obviously. They took on Peter Mrazek's contract as well as 25 for the 38th overall pick. And that ended up being, the Maple Leafs pick. And I feel that that was like a trade that really helped propel the Blackhawks rebuild because you get a guy
Hmm.
that kind of helps out Kevin Korchinski, where Kevin Korchinski was the 7th overall pick. But in a redraft, Kevin Korchinski might be 25, Frank Nazar might be 7, and Sam Rinzel might be like 13. So, like, that's where the Blackhawks were. They drafted. Maybe it was a different order if you do a redraft, but Sam Rinzel helps out that Blackhawks defense so much. You saw what JJ Paterka kind of went for right-handed defenseman. Um, and Doan, but like it's kind of interesting because you're always going to overvalue right-handed defensemen, especially in an organization, because it's just a limited position where there's not a lot of high-end players. So like Zane Parekh is probably going to be in that Calder Trophy race. I think, Demidov probably is the favorite at this time. You have Matthew Schaefer, Michael Misa. I don't think they're quite ready. Matthew Schaefer only played 17 games, had 20 points, but coming off a collarbone injury that is not long term at all, but just kind of like his development. He was 2 weeks away from being in the 2026 draft class. So is Matthew Schaefer ready to take on that mantle of being a Calder winner? I'm not sure. I would love it if he won because, Matthew Schaefer is one of those guys that I really appreciate and think that he's an incredible
Hmm.
person on and off the ice. But like with a guy like Sam Rinzel, like I just think that he's more NHL ready than most of the rookies. I think that Demidov will probably win, but if say like Demidov wasn't in this race or whatever it is, I think Sam Rinzel's second or third on that list. He's just such an incredible player. He had 4 points in 9 games on a bad Blackhawks team, but they only got more exciting. This is going to be a higher scoring team. He's going to be top pair minutes with Vlasic probably right off the gate. He's probably going to be in the opening night lineup, playing on the power play. I think Levshunov could also be in that Calder race, but I just I don't
Hmm.
necessarily think that he has that opportunity just as much as Rinzel. I think Rinzel is going to be power play 1. So yeah, and I see a question from the Sports Beard. It's like I heard Misa hasn't signed, so he's definitely going back to the CHL. I do believe he did sign.
He
Um,
did sign.
so like Misa is also in the Calder race as well. So like, you know, I don't necessarily see him or Schaefer, like I said, in it, but Rinzel is probably top 3 in my mind. If there was a good betting odds for Sam Rinzel, I'd throw $3 to $5 on it just, for fun. But that would just be me. Like, I think Parekh has one of the best chances to win. I know I was talking to Scott Wheeler and he said if he was a betting man, which you can't bet, that he would put his money on Parekh because of the odds and just kind of
Hmm.
what he's ready to do. You saw what he did. So I would say him
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
So yeah, those are 3 or 4 guys that I think could win the Calder.
I like that a lot. And, we're talking about betting. We got to take a quick little break here for our sponsor. Uh, Thanks so much to DraftKings for sponsoring GDT for the 2025-2026 NHL season. It's your season, your shot, and the NFL season is rolling. You can now bet on every touchdown, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime TD props or the thrill of the live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. This week on DraftKings Sportsbook, you can find lines such as the Buffalo Bills at minus 800 to beat the Miami Dolphins, and James Cook to record 2+ TDs at plus 310. Lines and odds are subject to change. New customers, this one's for you. You can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more, plus $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
We're back. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, we've talked a lot about players. Now, the Blackhawks main camp starts up. Preseason's getting underway this weekend. I do believe preseason gets underway. Blackhawks main camp roster was released this morning. My guy, Nathan Behm, of course, makes the roster. So happy for him. But my question for you is, who are you watching on this during the preseason? Is there, other than the guys we've talked about, or is there anybody else you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, Behm, Lardis, Moore are all guys that could make a really nice impact, but Behm's not going to make the roster. Obviously, he has his plan, but this is one of those things that it's for the experience, being around the guys. One guy that I think could make it out of camp because of this is Ryan Green, just a fantastic two-way player. I could see him in a middle six role. Because of just the playing style. I think you could put him in any kind of role. I think that he is going to be one of those guys that's probably fits best in the third line, especially on the Blackhawks paper. I think a guy like Lardis, it's going to be a really big year for him. So if he really wants to make the camp, he's going to have to do a lot, especially in the preseason. There are guys like, I think, Tage Harding is one of those guys that just has so much potential, being his size. He scored a really nice goal off of an incredible Sam Rinzel pass where the net was just wide open, but he still had to put it in. I really like Tage. He talked about watching Zdeno Chara growing up and modeling his game over there after I asked him about, some players that he modeled his game after. I kind of really like the goalies. You're seeing a lot of really good goalie depth at the, I guess, development level. So the Blackhawks are really, really good in that area. So it's going to be a big year for Comesso. He had an incredible run last year in the second half for Rockford, where he was just a madman, especially after Spencer Knight trade. Like, something just happened to him. He's one of those guys that I think could make a really big impact. I would say, I'm interested to see what Sam Lafferty is going to do, because it's like, why did you do that again? It was really interesting to see that he is on the team. Obviously, you're trying to gain competition, but it's like, why? I just thought it was really interesting. I guess he's Kyle Davidson's new Brandon Saad. I would like to see Connor Bedard, obviously, what he's going to be doing. Colton Dock is one of those players that kind of gets overlooked in this game. Samuel Savoie is very, very good. I think that he's one of those guys that was kind of plugged into the Andrew Shaw role, but I don't know. Lucas Reichel might be traded before the year starts based on a lot of the noise we're hearing, but I hope he's not. I think he's a really good player with a lot of upside. Jack Pridham is one guy that I really, really like. Very skilled player. His dad is Brandon Pridham, who's the assistant GM to the Leafs. He was actually the jersey runner, Jack was, to Mitch Marner when he was drafted. So, pretty cool story if you want to watch that video. Cool. I like Aiden Thompson. I think he's going to be an NHL player, kind of a grinder. I don't know how many games he'll get this go around, but he played pretty well in his first couple. I want to see what Artyom Levshunov and Kevin Korchinski do, because, those are just the two guys that are cornerstone defensively for draft value wise. But Sam Rinzel's probably the best defenseman on this team next year with Alex Vlasic, who's the face of the training camp, in my opinion. Just like I like what Wyatt Kaiser can bring, but the only bad thing is he's not under contract right now. So, I do believe that will get settled beforehand.
Okay.
There's been talk about that, but there's talk that he and the Blackhawks reps are already talking today. Ryan Mast was traded for Victor Soderstrom after Victor didn't want to sign and then ended up going to the
Was it
Bruins
Boston?
and then signing.
Yeah.
So I want to see how, number 58 does. He did pretty good in Minnesota, and I really do like him. I like Dmitry Kuzmin. He's a guy that played with Artyom Levshunov way back when in the day, and kind of that guy that is good friends with him. And I think that Artyom Levshunov needs a little more friends. He wasn't really talking. I went to an NBA All-Star game once, and Charles Barkley, after the show ended, he was just talking to no one. It kind of made me think of Artyom Levshunov there, because it's he doesn't fully look as comfortable as a guy with that personality does. I think he needs somebody to be as his go-to guy. So I hope Kuzmin can try to play a couple games with the Blackhawks next year for that reason. So Landon Slaggard, I think, has a really good opportunity to be a top 6 forward for the Blackhawks, especially in the early era of this team. I think that when it's all said and done, he'll probably be in the top 9. Probably third line winger if I had to guess, but those are some guys that I really do like. Yeah.
Kevin Korchinski, is this the year where he kind of figures it out, or do you think that there could be a parting of the ways between him and the Hawks?
I think Kevin Korchinski has a lot longer with the Hawks because, look at how much, I would say it's a lot, but how much Reichel has had. Reichel has had a lot of time, and I know he did incredible in the AHL level. I think he was a point per game player, the best player on Rockford for a little bit of time. I think his confidence was absolutely shut, and he doesn't play a really good B game. It's basically just skill, and his head isn't really in the game 24/7. With Korchinski, it's more of his physical maturity, his development. I think that he is a little scared to be himself. And being in the AHL level last year, and especially in the AHL All-Star game where he won MVP, he was showing that he could be himself. You give this guy time and space, and he's going to be able to make a play. Really good shooter. He had 5 goals in his first year in the NHL. Obviously, he was like a -44 for the team, but that wasn't really basically all on him. Bedard and Bertuzzi were both -40s plus last year, and it was just because the Blackhawks aren't going to score a lot of points. If it's kind of like Logan Hensler on Wisconsin, he was a top 5 pick, projected higher than Matthew Schaefer, goes to Wisconsin. They don't score a lot of points. He's defending a lot and not being able to use his offense, and then he drops. Kevin Korchinski is the same way. It was just after his draft year, and there was really no place to put him after the AHL rule that I think should be changed. I think players should be able to play wherever their development is best for. This is the NHL and the development leagues. You need hockey players to be at their best development to play in this league. You should be able to play wherever you want, in my opinion, or whatever's best. He was forced to either play in the WHL, which he should have dominated, and he should have went back. But 2020 hindsight's 2020. He went to the NHL. He kind of got a little spooked. He had to go back to the AHL after he could, and he actually got better. Last year, he did really good. I think that he showed that he can step up defensively, that he is one of the best players on that Rockford team. And if he does have a really, really great, if he has a good player beside him, which is really hard because the top 2 right-handed defensemen are also rookies next year. So they basically need a right-handed Alex Vlasic with him. Some guy that has that length, that is stable. Connor Murphy's great, but Connor Murphy has dealt with injuries for the last few years. So if Connor Murphy's the third pair, right-handed defenseman, you throw him with Korchinski on the other side, play him for, the first couple games, see what he has. I don't want to throw him back in the AHL. I think you kind of just need a ride or die with him. give him just as much time you can, give him power play minutes. I don't think it's, even if you're putting Korchinski up there with Rinzel, do that. There's not really any other, you don't want like another veteran playing, power play time when you need to get your guys more confidence. So it is a make or break season for Korchinski, but I don't think that the Blackhawks are going to think it is as well. Like even next year, if Korchinski is a bad season, we're going to go into the season like this is also a make or break. Like every year for him now, starting now, probably is make or break, because it's like you need to see growth, and if there's no growth, then you can't just put him in the AHL again. You got to at least, it's sink or swim. You got to throw him in and see what happens. I think that this is a year that he can play a little bit of AHL games, but after this year, you got to play him in the NHL for a full season next year. And if it doesn't work out, then you got to reevaluate.
Spencer Knight's contract. That's a big one. What does that say about solidifying the net for the future?
I think it's a cheap contract. With the amount of money continuing to increase in the salary cap, like he could have got 7-8 million for 3 years, because what are the Blackhawks going to do? Say no? They have nothing that they can do. I think that it's great for both the player and the team, because it is more of a team friendly deal. I know that people might say, oh, it's like 5.8 million or whatever it is. That's a really cheap deal, basically, because you're seeing everybody get paid more. This could have gotten a little uglier in terms of like going into the season. I think that he could have just said like, I'll go into my RFA, get more, you'll have to match whatever it is. I really do like that it didn't get ugly. I think that Spencer Knight wants the opportunity to start for 3 years, and then 3 more years, and then just see what happens and what his play will bring him. I think that he's probably going to be a $10 million goalie in one contract he has. I think that he has that potential. He's very young still. Sergei Bobrovsky is one of the best goalies in the league, and he's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion back, so you can't start Spencer Knight over him. And I know Florida Panthers fans were very sad to see him go, but he had to. Seth Jones did very, very good. The Blackhawks should have never gotten Knight and a first-round pick for Seth Jones, though. That should have just never happened. So I think that you needed to just bite the bullet and sign this contract, which I think is an absolute steal of a deal. I think that Kyle Davidson got great value on Frank Nazar as well as Donato, who signed a 4x4, which was the same deal Brian Bickle signed in 2013 that ruined the 2014 run. So I think that that's always something. Like I pointed that out, and it seemed like no one even really talked about that. Like these guys are getting paid similarly to what the Blackhawks were paying players, 10 years ago. And the salary cap's only going to continue to increase. I really did like the Alex Vlasic deal. I mean, it's like 6 by 4.6 or whatever it was. Like they're signing really cheap deals to the guys that are our core, and they're overpaying for veterans to try to hide the salary cap so that they do have enough money for Connor Bedard. That Frank Nazar trade, they can literally sign anybody now. I think that they should try to take a chance at Kirill Kaprizov. If the price is right and the deal is right, you can sign one of those guys now, because there is just the salary cap is just going to rise so much. Like Marco D'Amico, who you guys did have, who did phenomenal with the views, and one of my good buddies, he was talking about how the salary cap could almost double in 5 to 10 years.
I saw that.
So this is one of those times when you should be signing your players. I wish there was a lot more term. Like if this was an 8-year deal for 5.8 million, it would be an incredible steal. Like I don't care. You want to sign your guys, because even when Kirill Kaprizov signs, if it's an 8-year deal, it's going to be one of the best contracts in the entire NHL within 3 years, because of how much players are going to get paid. So you're going to see incredibly wild deals that are signed in the next 2-3 years. But I look at it like I've been following the NFL and the NBA for years. I knew what Jimmy Butler wanted back in the day. He wanted 11 million or 12 million. The Bulls offered him like 10. Then he was like, fine. Then he signed like a $25 million deal like 2 years later. So it's like this. And then now players are getting 60 million. The NHL salary cap is going to change so much. And I think that me and my background of watching all of these different sports and saying how much Micah Parsons is getting paid, and Patrick Mahomes is getting paid. Like Patrick Mahomes got a $50 million a year contract for 10 years, and to me that's very, very cheap, because you're seeing guys get like 60 million now. So like, I think that any player that signs an 8-year deal, I think that that's not as good as it should, but that's what I want my team to do. Like if I have a team that has a ton of incredible young players, I want them to sign 8-year deals. Just I don't care what the price is. Even if it's a little more, just sign it. It's going to age incredibly well. The Frank Nazar deal is going to age incredibly well. So same with Vlasic, same with Spencer Knight. So I really do like that. And Kaiser's probably going to get like a 5-year deal for $3 million or something crazy. It's going to be super low, and people are going to be like, what? That's ridiculous, and whatever it is. And it's like, guys, this stuff, it's only going to continue to increase. So I do like seeing contracts and what players are getting signed to, because I think they like players that are signing for 8 years are making a big mistake, in my opinion.
I love it. That was a fantastic breakdown. That was great. I got a couple quick hitters for you before we let you go and we end the show here. My first one, start, bench, cut. Sam Rinzel, Kevin Korchinski, Artyom Levshunov.
Yeah, start Rinzel, no brainer. Bench Levshunov and cut Korchinski. I think that's
simple. That was too easy for you. Well, I shouldn't have done that. That was too simple. Too simple. Okay. Because you talked about contracts, let me try and think of one on the fly here. Over or under Connor Bedard at 12.5 million?
Under. It's going to be like a 7 by 10.98.
98. That's exactly what it's going to be too. That's probably dead on. My last one for you. What do you got going on in your world right now, and what can you kind of tell our viewers about what's going on in the Prospect Dons world?
Yeah, a lot is going on right now. I'm finalizing an acquisition for a big scouting, well, in my eyes, pretty big scouting platform that helped me get my start. I want to actually, just like give this time. It's not FC hockey, but I want to, say, like I know that they are doing different things, and I believe that they just ended their 18-year run. So I wanted to quickly, talk on that. Like FC hockey has really helped the scouting community for years. I loved their mock draft simulator. I've been using it for absolutely so long. Draft Prospects Hockey's founder, Dan Stewart, actually, was one of the creators of FC Hockey. And I know that he put so much time into that. And, after he sold, they just made so many incredible people into the NHL world, and some scouts that are with teams in the WHL, CHL, like USHL, NCAA, even NHL teams. So it is always sad to see one of the giants, fall a little bit, but there is things that are going on in my world. I'm traveling all over the place, going to a bunch of these tournaments. I'm going to be covering the USHL Fall Classic for the 17th through the 22nd. So I do have to leave very, very soon for that. I'm going to continue to be posting on YouTube, as well as the Draft Prospects Hockey YouTube channel. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers on the Prospect Dawn channel. So if you guys can go over there and click that subscribe button. I've been interviewing incredible guests like top prospects, top media personnel. So definitely I'm going to be posting more there. I have like 16 videos in the vault because I just haven't been able to post them, but I posted one with Scott Wheeler today, so that's up. But there's just so much. I'm on like 2 new podcasts, one with Russ Cohen from SiriusXM and R&J Media. So that's with former Steel Flyers. So he did all of these prospect interviews. Me and him like interviewed the most prospects combined last year, along with Marco D'Amico's company. So like that was also great. And I'm on the Clock podcast with Blue Chip Prospect, who's a incredibly large YouTuber for the prospecting game. So that's always a fun one. But other than that, not much else going on there.
Lots of hockey. That's what counts, right? Yeah. You've been traveling a lot. Like you said to me, you barely been in your own house for 24 hours. So it's a busy time of the year for everybody. Don, thank you so much for joining me today. Seriously, always a pleasure to chat prospects with you and talk hockey with you. We'll have you back on again soon. But everyone, from us over here at Game Day Tarps, we'll be back tomorrow with former NHLer Cam Jansen. We're going to be chatting with him. Really looking forward to talking with Cam. But that does it for us here on GDT Live. We're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 Pacific, right here on GDT Live.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.